Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. Tonight I'm joined by Kevin McCluskey and James McKenzie. It's Celtic 1, Lazio 1. James, all week you've been talking about Celts that need to step up on this particular platform at this level. Kyogo was one of the players that you had mentioned. He broke his duck. What a goal. Outstanding.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant goal. It was really well taken. The attack, it was a simple attack, but it was brilliant. It was effective. I thought Maeda progressed it well. We're running inside, gives it to O'Reilly. It's one-touch stuff. Lays it off. Kyogo took his time, so I was starting to get a bit worried because he took a little while before he finally pulled the trigger. But he does, and it's a lovely goal. It's a lovely finish, and you've broke them down perfectly there. We were saying it might not be the most entertaining watch. Football might not be the easiest on the eye, but some of the moves in that first half were really good. There was a couple of them similar to that one where it's one-touch stuff, simple football, but sometimes that's what you need to break down these teams, and they're there for the taking. You can get at them in that second half.
I agree with you. And you're right. As beautiful as the goal was, it was very simple. And I think the three players who were involved in it, Maeda, O'Reilly, Kyogo, all in their own ways, Kevin, in that first half really did influence the way Celtic played. I think Maeda has been outstanding. Some of his defensive work has been phenomenal. We lost the ball top left. They broke down with Yang top left, and Maeda was the guy that won us it back in the right back position. He's unbelievable. The touch from O'Reilly, just the weighted touch, the body movement of O'Reilly, just allowing that ball, cushioning it into the path of Kyogo. And I've got to admit, as soon as Kyogo got it, I just thought, he's scoring. I had confidence in him, Kevin. It was a tremendous opening goal, wasn't it?
It was, and I'm really, really happy for him. And for James as well, because James did say that I think in the pre-match that tonight was going to be the night
He did.
He was going to break his duck. So James called it beforehand. But yeah, the beauty of that goal was just the simplicity of it all, and the fact that the simple part isn't even simple as well. It's kind of contradictory, but they've made it look so simple. But the weight in the pass of O'Reilly to thread it through to Kyogo is perfect. It's top notch. I think I prefer the pass than the finish. If you know what I mean. Like I appreciate that a lot more because it's a really difficult technique just to cushion it and weight it through. But a really, really good goal all round, and I totally agree. As soon as that one went to Kyogo, that was one of those chances where you just think, yeah, he's the right man. This is falling to. This is going in the back of the net. You got complete faith in him. Didn't matter they hadn't scored a Champions League goal up till then. He's a top class goal scorer, and now he's got that off his back. You know, he probably will end up doing, as James again said pre-match. He got he broke his duck against Rangers and scored in 3 or 4 games in a row. He's got that ability that he can do it at this level now as well. So, great goal, great team goal, but a great goal for Kyogo as well, and one that can hopefully see him just become the player in Europe that we know he can be.
Yeah, definitely. And you know this, as soon as he scores and he's celebrating the goal, he's pointing at Matt O'Reilly because of his part in the goal. It was a really great effort. And I think there's been a few occasions in that first half, like James says, where the passages of play have been very neat football. There was one moment, actually, we played it from the back that there was like multiple passes throughout the team. And I thought we showed a real maturity. This is the big thing for me with Brendan Rodgers' team. It's a completely different type of ball playing from the back. There was an occasion, James, where the ball went back to Nat Phillips and he's on his 18 yards line. And I'm looking for Joe Hart, and Hart's nowhere near him. Hart just stood in his line. So we are playing it from the back, but we're doing it in a different way. We're not taking the extra passes to the goalie. Phillips looks up and he's looking straight away to play in Alistair Johnston, who quickly brought in McGregor into the play as well. But there is a good point here coming in from Mount Cadath here. Good game. As soon as our concentration levels dropped to less than 100%, we're struggling, but that's to be expected. It is true, though, there is no room for any kind of error, because as soon as we make that error, they're crafting out a chance.
Yeah, as soon as the commenter says, as soon as there's a lapse in judgment, a lack of concentration at the back, a misplaced pass, Lazio are all over it. And we mentioned time and time again in the build-up to games like this, you might get away with those sort of mistakes, a loose pass every now and then when you're playing against someone like, I don't know, Motherwell or Livingston in the league. But when you're playing against a team like Lazio, you're not going to get away with it too often before they eventually do punish you. Lazio, they didn't panic when they went down. They were playing pretty patiently. They did eventually get that goal. But I'd love to see us being a bit more solid, playing out from the back in the second half. There was a couple of nervy moments. They didn't punish us for it, but they will in the second half if they do continue. But just on the defence, I thought most of the defending was pretty solid. It seems like their main point of attack is a ball over the top of Greg Taylor when he goes forward, and there was quite a few occasions in that first half where Liam Scales was the man rushing across cover, and I thought he was doing a great job at that. I think it was Lazio that was getting him behind, and he puts in a crunching tackle, gets the crowd going. It's things like that
I cheered that in the first half. It was IRS, you're screaming at it like he scored a goal.
I thought Alistair Johnston did look a bit shaky. I heard the commentator mention that he picked up a knock in the warm-up before the game. You saw him getting treatment for a big sort of scab on his leg. I think Zaccagni was the main danger man that I pointed out for Lazio outside of Immobile, and I think he's been giving Johnson the run around quite a few times. But when it comes to sort of defending his box, whether it be aerially or from an attacker trying to cut inside him, I think Johnson's played pretty cleverly. I think he's played pretty well at that part. I think Nat Phillips, he hasn't really looked like he's lacking match sharpness. There's only really one point where he tried to gallivant forward a bit, and then he did start to counter us. But Dice Maeda, as you mentioned, Paul, he's been chasing every ball in this first half. He's been brilliant. I think he might have been offside when he gets played over the top by Johnson, but he was quite unlucky. He perhaps could have done better in front of goal there. But I think there's far more positives than things to complain about in that first half.
I'd agree with that.
And you get the break of the ball or a chance, then that could just be what we need.
Yeah, and a great use of the word gallivant. I've not heard that for ages. Gallivant up the park.
I thought that'd be a better choice of words.
Superb. Once the AI comes in where it automatically translates your voice into Japanese and everything else, I'm not sure what the translation of gallivant is. Jock Sporran, Scales continues to impress. I totally agree with that. I think he's been absolutely key to shoring up, obviously, that area of the park that they are targeting. But what's happened to Hatate? Well, I think Hatate, to be fair to him, and O'Reilly, but O'Reilly kind of played through it, have been kind of doubled up on a lot of the time. I see Hatate getting absolutely crowded out as soon as he gets the ball because they know that he can damage them. But as I said, though, O'Reilly has played his way through that and actually came onto a game. I'm not too concerned at this moment about Hatate. There is a concern on the park, but for me, it's not Hatate just now. With regards to the left-back position, Kevin McCluskey, back in the day, last season, or even earlier in this season, I would have been concerned. But what James says there is Scales is covering them brilliantly. So if they're targeting Taylor, you've got Scales behind them. My only concern about that area of the park is what's in front of Taylor with Yang. I don't think we're getting anywhere near what you're going to get from Maeda. And for me, the wise choice would be twofold. You bring on Palmer and you bring him on for Yang. You're going to and actually switch the wings. So you've got Palmer on the right. Maeda needs to go on the left to give a wee bit of protection on that side of the park, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was a point I'd made at half-time against Motherwell. I probably wouldn't have made a change in that game because nobody was having a stinker, and I would only take someone off if they were. I feel like Yang's having a bit of a stinker tonight.
A bit of a Reggie Blinker.
A bit of a Reggie Blinker, aye. There's nothing seems to be going his way. I think he maybe played one decent pass forward for Maeda when he takes a heavy touch and then drags his shot wide. Other than that, he's been really quiet. You can tell the effort's there, but it's not coming off for him tonight. It's just not going to be his day. Seems like it's a bit of a step up too much. So I would agree with that. It's the change and move Maeda over because then he gives that defensive cover for Taylor. But yeah, one of the notes I've got from midway through the first half is that Scales is covering Taylor really well. Mm-hmm. So anytime he has been caught out and they have targeted that ball in the left, Scales is just going down. He's won everything. He's wiped out a few boys a couple of times as well, which is nice to see because he's winning the ball at the same time. But he's been really impressive in that first half. So yeah, I don't really have much of a concern over that side so long as that change happens. if Yang stays in the park, you are missing something on that left-hand side. So I think that maybe does need to change at half-time. But otherwise, all in all, we played a really, really good first half, I felt there. Really good on the ball at times, like just controlled the possession, killed the game at times. Like that. Again, I've usually got like pages of notes for the first half. I've got like half a page, and I'm fine with that because we're completely in this game. We've controlled it fairly well, I think. I don't think Lazio have overrun us at any time. They've had their moments when they've been on top, but so have we. We've had our moments and we've just played a really good possession-based game of football. And like James said, we've got that ability that we can cut them open. We've done it once. We scored from it. You've got to believe that they can go and do it again in the second half.
That was the one moment where we really were clinical, and it was early in the game, and I felt at that point that we could do it again. We could cut through them again. There was a few, I'm not even going to say half chances, but there was a few chances. O'Reilly had a shot, made us first opportunity where we were a wee bit less clinical. And I tend to agree with James with the ball over the top from Johnson, which, by the way, should be another warning sign for us that we can cut them open just with that wee dink over the top. Maeda, I think, had kind of slowed his run a wee bit because he probably knew he was offside. So I'm not going to criticise him too much for his lack of clinical finishing. We are going to have to look at the goal, though, because I know already that both of you are disagreeing about where we should have prevented that. Matt McAllister, Maeda just doesn't have his shooting boots on today. I think there's been two occasions, but I'm going to say, Matt, the second one, I think he actually just slowed down a wee bit because he knew he wasn't going to get it, even if it went in. Personal Jesus. By the way, I'd much rather just burst the net with it anyway. We need more from a number of players not at the races here to get the win. Need changes at half time. Well, I think we are. I think we're really in this game, and it's been really evenly matched as well. Jamie, that left-hand side will be our downfall. I think that's why we need to bring on Maeda. Personally, I think that's a change you make. And because Yang's not really... For me, there's not been an end product. The flow of the game seems to stop when it comes to him. M. Young, simply unable to defend a corner as per usual. Let's talk about it then, because I'm watching it back, and yes, Joe Hart didn't get a very strong hand on it. By the way, it's minutes after a brilliant save by Joe Hart. We need to fire that in. I don't think we defended it that well, James.
Yeah, you could argue that. I think the fact that Vecino is completely free right in front of Joe Hart, and it's the most marginal of touches, but even a touch like that could completely throw off a goalkeeper. But it's a tame hand you'd be expecting. We spoke before the game of the experience that Joe Hart, I can't remember how many games it was specifically that you said he's played in this competition, but you'd be expecting a bit better from him, especially after he makes a terrific save to deny Ciro Immobile, who I think was offside in the end. But as I mentioned earlier on in this halftime analysis, overplaying from the back could be the demise, and it nearly was the demise if Hart didn't pull off that phenomenal save. But he has to do a bit better for that goal, I think.
Well, we're back on the park. There's been no changes. Yang's on the field. Johnson's on the field. Phillips, who's on a booking, is also on there. Kevin, case for the defence. You think it was probably the corner not being defended well enough. That's the source of the issue for the equaliser, yeah?
Yeah, for me it was. Yeah, I will agree with James that maybe Joe could have got a stronger hand to the effort, but there's two free headers that have been won before it gets to Joe Hart, uncontested headers. Somebody's got to be going in there and winning that ball, and I'm sure Jerry Taylor would agree with me on this one. If you're a goalkeeper and the ball takes a wee deflection just before it gets to you, it will throw you off. So now I'm going to back Joe Hart in that one. Say it's not his fault. His defence has got to do better with the initial corner and then the second ball.
I was wondering when they were lining up for the corner anyway. I was wondering why Kyogo was there in the box. There's been one or two moments this season where either Kyogo's been beaten or Kyogo's been the man on the line and it's completely gone over him. I was wondering as soon as I saw them line up for the free kick, I'm like, why is Kyogo in the box? Why isn't he the man further at the park? I think Yang was the lone option that they'd left further forward, but he shouldn't be back defending that corner.
No, and we've seen what happens, obviously, if you expect Kyogo to defend out. I mean, we put him in the wall against Feyenoord, and that didn't work out too well either, James. The action has kicked off. We're going to join the game, second half at Celtic Park. Thank you, 1,000 of you, for tuning in at half-time on the live stream. It's greatly appreciated, and a very evenly matched game. Let's join the second half action. All that's left for me to say thank you again, Kevin McCluskey and James Mackenzie, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.